Malice, a violent, visceral, and breathtaking tale of tragedy and revenge. A life-changing ordeal for characters like Dr. Rush and Eli Wallace, and the boiling point for the Season 2 Lucian Alliance story arc. Difficult to watch, yet paradoxically magnetic, Malice delivers one of the most resonant and thrilling chapters of Stargate Universe, and perhaps Stargate in general. Instead of shying away from its dour premise, the episode embraced the inherent pain and gut-wrenching drama and swung for the fences. Needless to say, it did not miss. So let's take a deep dive into Malice and find out how it became one of the most compelling episodes in Stargate's vast legacy. Shot in the misty Badlands of New Mexico, Malice is a visually arresting thriller that channels a variety of recognizable cinematic influences, yet somehow manages to strike a distinctly unique tone. Written and directed by Robert C. Cooper, Malice instantly became a fan favorite when it aired back in November of 2010. At the time, Stargate was testing its ability to deliver blockbuster-level drama to the small screen, and Cooper was arguably the directorial vanguard of that effort during the Stargate Universe era. While Cooper had been a writer on Stargate since the very first season of SG-1, it was only in 2006 that he stowed away his laptop and stepped behind the monitors on set. And honestly, Stargate is all the better for that. He quickly earned his stripes as a maverick filmmaker with episodes like SG-1's Unending, Atlantis' Satida, Doppelganger, and Vegas, and Stargate Universe's Time. But despite all these impressive credits under his belt, his work on Malice showcased an unprecedented level of narrative and technical finesse. Emotionally, Malice reached the depth of fan favorites like SG-1's Heroes, but visually, it set a new standard, giving other Stargate highlights like Stargate Continuum and Air Part 3 a real run for their money. So ever since the Lucian Alliance failed to take Destiny at the end of Stargate Universe's first season, life on board the ship was forever altered. The inexperienced, ill-equipped skeleton crew not only had to recover from a violent incursion, but also police the remnants of a hostile military insurgents, stretching themselves dangerously thin. Over time, however, the issue of survival took greater precedence over partisan divide, and the Alliance personnel were allowed to integrate with the greater Destiny population, provided they pull their own weight and adhere to strict regulations. 24-hour military escorts were assigned to keep their personnel in line, and most Alliance individuals adapted well, but one soldier made a name for himself as a troublemaker, the character of Simeon, played by actor Robert Knepper. A staunch devotee to his people, Simeon would do anything to protect the Alliance and their covert operations in the Milky Way galaxy, literally on the other side of the universe. When he learns that Alliance scientist Gin has swapped minds with Dr. Amanda Perry via the ancient communication stones, he becomes suspicious of her motives for going back to Earth and allowing herself to be debriefed. Simeon eventually figures out, or at least infers, that Gin is disclosing classified information about Alliance operations to Homeworld Command, so he takes radical action to silence the leak. In the closing minutes of the prior episode, The Greater Good, Simeon murders his Marine escort, tracks Gin down, and strangles her to death, killing both Gin and Dr. Amanda Perry. In the opening minutes of Malice, Simeon is on the run. He escapes through the Stargate with Dr. Lisa Park as a hostage, and a dangerous game of cat and mouse begins to unravel in a desert hellscape. Lieutenant Scott, Sergeant Greer, and Dr. Rush are the first to follow Simeon to the desert planet, intent on recovering him alive. But as the episode evolves, it becomes clear that Dr. Rush has other plans. For him, this is personal. Amanda Perry was his dear friend, perhaps one of his only friends. Few can understand the tortured genius of Nicholas Rush, much less empathize with him, and Amanda Perry not only likes him, but harbors romantic feelings toward him, feelings she recently revealed in the Season 1 episode Sabotage. Amanda Perry is also probably the only person Rush feels a sense of responsibility or guardianship toward, so when she is inadvertently murdered by Simeon, a primal rage is ignited deep within Rush. After playing his cards wisely for most of the manhunt, Rush ditches his military colleagues and pursues Simeon with an intent to shoot on sight. Uninterested in the greater ramifications of Simeon's death, Rush becomes just as dangerous and unhinged as the Alliance renegade himself, and Malice boils down to an emotional duel between these two men, one driven by survival, the other by revenge. Malice is a stylish, snazzy, and sharp take on the space western subgenre, but it's also a turning point in the greater Stargate universe. Ever since the Lucian Alliance attacked Icarus Base in Air Part 1, Earth has been engaged in a cold war with the increasingly powerful military entity. The Alliance has wasted no time filling the void left by the Goa'uld system lords, and all signs point to an immediate galaxy-wide conflict, with the biggest danger being a planned attack on the planet Earth. Now that Gin is dead, Simeon may be the only Alliance prisoner who possesses intelligence that can stop the attack. If Rush succeeds in killing Simeon, he could be inadvertently sentencing millions to death back home. As usual, Stargate does not hesitate to ask the greater moral questions and rest the state of the galaxy on our heroes' weary backs. While Rush suffers possibly the most acute loss, he's not the only one devastated by Simeon's actions. Eli Wallace, long having played the part of outsider, kid genius, or best friend, has finally found an organic, romantic connection with the character of Gin. As Sergeant Greer cynically put it, if you were ever to have a chance with anyone, this is probably it. So it's equal parts fascinating and heartbreaking to watch Eli and Rush become confronted with the same impulses after they both experience a similar personal loss. But while Rush is completely destabilized, Eli isn't beyond saving, and it's Colonel Young who takes it upon himself to coach Eli and walk him back from the ledge. Eli has an obligation to compartmentalize his feelings and continue to serve as part of the crew. He can help prevent further loss of life, but not if he succumbs to his emotions. Thankfully, Eli listens to Young and chooses the light, while Rush, blinded by anger, chooses the darkness. But that dichotomy is part of the reason why Stargate Universe's ensemble is so compelling. Characters face reflections of themselves and their fellow crew, similar trials and tribulations, yet every individual chooses a different path. These characters are truly fluid in their role in Stargate Universe's story. Today's hero may very well be tomorrow's villain, and vice versa. The trauma felt by other individuals on the Destiny further catalyzes developments with Stargate Universe's greater set of characters. Malice would mark the start of a failed romance between Drs. Park and Volker, two scientists who are close at heart, but lamentably, as Volker later finds out, strictly in a platonic sense. Colonel Young's leadership is also tested like never before. His trustworthiness metric has been admittedly shaky since Season 1's Justice, where he left Dr. Rush to die on an alien planet. But in Malice, and subsequent episodes, Young reaches deep and finds redemption and stability as the commander, even after the death of his unborn child at the beginning of the season. He finally becomes a figure we can respect, not just feel sorry for. In terms of broader dynamics, Malice directly follows another game-changing episode, The Greater Good, in which Rush and Young, once and for all, accept their circumstances and vow to work together for the sake of the crew. But the Simeon development immediately threatens to undo this alliance before it even begins. Will Rush's reckless actions once again pit Young against him? Will personal agendas trump teamwork? Will Destiny dissolve into another civil war, like we saw in the episode Divided? Thankfully, we learned that the crew of the Destiny are better than their lousy circumstances. While Rush still gives in to his worst tendencies, everyone else embraces their best. Perhaps Simeon thought that he could widen the cracks in the crew's resolve through violence and discord, yet the adversity of Malice brings out their strength and bravery. Admittedly, most of Stargate Universe's first season was spent dealing with toxic partisanship and destructive personal agendas from rogue members of the crew, but Season 2 marks the start of an acceptance of Destiny's journey, and the realization that the only way out is through. Almost a year after the Icarus personnel unknowingly gated aboard Destiny in an emergency evacuation, these misfits have finally synergized and found their spacefaring legs. And that teamwork continued to develop as Season 2 progressed to even greater narrative heights. Watching Malice reminded me a lot of Breaking Bad's iconic episode, Ozymandias. Both hours of television are extremely violent climaxes that play out in a soulless desert wasteland, killing off key characters and leaving the rest of the cast broken and struggling to pick up the pieces. Malice, like Ozymandias, gives you that pit in your stomach. Those white-knuckled fists and beads of perspiration on your forehead, even inside the air-conditioned comfort of your home. At this point in both Stargate Universe and Breaking Bad, we know these characters. We've spent dozens of episodes learning about their personalities, flaws, and relationships, and watching the writers cultivate complex dynamics and motivations. Then, we're given a front row seat to the fireworks, as characters live out their darkest hours. While such a tornado of emotions might impact its rewatch value for a lot of viewers, it doesn't diminish the quality of storytelling or the titanic achievement of Robert C. Cooper and the Stargate production crew. You feel like you're being taken for a ride by masters of their craft, and everything from the directing to the cinematography to the acting to the music, it all feels like artists at the peak of their game. Malice also makes a unique stamp on the age-old tragedy revenge story, and it infuses the long-lasting Stargate franchise with a truly fresh aesthetic and tone. Even in the tail end of the Wright-Cooper era of Stargate, with nearly 350 episodes of television under their belt, the franchise was continually proving it had plenty of gas left in the tank and plenty more stories to tell. If ever there is any doubt about Stargate's incredibly compelling catalog, one merely needs to point an individual to the episode of Malice.